Hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. My name is Julius Ramirez. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Demand and Partnerships here at Chartboost. So again, really excited to be hosting this virtual panel. I'll admit this is my very first virtual panel that we've done. We've done many live panels, but this is a virtual panel. But again, conforming to the times of today, right? Where we'll be discussing moving past 2020, thank God, and adapting user acquisition for a thriving 2021. So again, really excited to have this discussion with the panelists here. Before I go ahead and dive in, just want to start off with some really quick PSAs or some public service announcements before getting started. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, our marketing lead Zir is online, so feel free to send the message via the chat function. Secondly, the webinar will be recorded and will be shared automatically with all registered attendees, and then also the participants and panelists, obviously within the next 48 hours. And then lastly, we have asked all attendees to pre-submit some Q&A questions. So if we do have time at the end, we will be addressing that with the panelists here. But we're going to take this play this by ear a little bit, depending on how we go through the the panelists and the discussion webinar here and see if we have some time. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So here we are. I'm joined here by three esteemed guests for our panel today. But before I have them introduce themselves, I do want to quickly just say I want to recognize that it's been a very, very, very challenging time and year for everyone, right? Here on this call, everybody globally within different industries and markets, but specifically performance marketers who have been challenged with the changing dynamics across the ecosystem, not to mention environmental changes that are happening throughout this pandemic. So I would say like creativity and thinking beyond the norm is and will continue to be critical as we move forward. So that said, as I mentioned earlier, I think I can speak for everyone here that we're all ready to learn from 2020 and move on to 2021, which I'm sure that we'll get into here in this discussion. So let's continue by our panel by kicking off some introductions, starting with Jill here. Jill, can you please do a quick introduction of yourself and tell us a little bit about your role at Zynga?
Of course, thank you. This is Jill. I'm from Zynga, and overall, I help a lot of ads marketing technology. It's very nice to meet everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speaking with all the great people.
Amazing. Perfect. We're happy to have you here, Jill. Our next guest is Mariya from SciPlay. Mariya, would you mind please giving a quick introduction of yourself and your role?
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you all for joining. It's a great honor to join this kind of event. My name is Mariya. I'm from SciPlay, UA team leader, all the way from Tel Aviv. We make games.
Awesome. All right, and then certainly, last but certainly not least, we have Osku from Rovio. Osku, can you please provide us a quick introduction of yourself and your role?
Of course. Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Osku. I work as a performance marketing specialist at Rovio, and I have been working with games for just less than 2 years now, and I've been my role has been campaign manager for a couple of our titles.
Amazing.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Again, we're excited to have you all here. And the big theme within this entire conversation is obviously we're all going through something through this pandemic. It's global, so we have global representation here, which I'm really, really excited about, and to hear different perspectives in different markets. So, as mentioned earlier, as much as we're all over 2021, there are some interesting learnings, that we've realized as we closed this unprecedented year. So Let's go ahead and get started. Looking through the lens of performance marketing, what I'm going to do is kick the first question over to Jill from Zynga. So Jill, really quick. So based on your experience through this pandemic, what do you think are the needs and consequences of this new world we live in with respect to mobile user acquisition and engagement?
Thank you for the question. So overall in the market, I think technology sector always drives the most growth. And then it gets accelerated, especially since COVID. And just looking at the stock market, we can tell, right? Very crazy, actually. And then for us at Zynga, we definitely see the user growth. Although many times it depends on location and then the country's government policy. It can be varies. So let's say with a place that has a shelter-in-place order, people stays at home longer. There's many users who start playing the game their first time. And then we also launched several amazing feature and new title. And of course, we got a lot of help from like top partner like Chartboost. Definitely provide us a lot of great guidelines. But you know, like with the user growth, we want to make sure after we acquire them, we stay engaged with them. So like we definitely utilize some of our social media platform and also like a lifecycle marketing strategy. So we can stay in touch with the player, retain them after we acquire them. And then we appreciate the player who chose our game to play during this period. And we hope we brought them a lot of fun. And then we will just keep continue provide a great experience, feature, work closely with great partner, and then keep best practice.
That's fantastic, and that's really interesting because I think that we all agree that you know, those users you know, that we've experienced throughout this pandemic, we've obviously seen an increase engagement and usage across, you know, in-app gaming and in-app in general. You know, I can say that you know, escapism is real, right? And it's definitely something that all of us have faced and is experienced. And you know, even myself, I've tested out a lot of new games that I haven't had necessarily the time or even you know, opportunity to do so. So I'm glad that you called that out, Jill, and that's really interesting takeaways. You know, again, knowing this affected you know, the global markets outside of the U.S., I'm really interested also to hear perspectives from outside of you know, within international markets. So that said, Mariya, would you mind providing your perspective on this question as well?
Yeah, sure. So I totally agree with Jill with all you said. This is totally true for us. So yeah, the key learning and the most important thing that we learned, and I think is important anyway, is to keep your game product, whatever you have, in its best top shape, so that when something like this extraordinary, like the COVID pandemic happens, you are ready to welcome and accommodate all the new users. So I really agree with Jill on this point that we have to make sure that all our products and games are really ready for some extraordinary circumstances that may occur today or tomorrow, maybe next year, something else. So this is one of the main focuses that we learned from the pandemic. In the end of the day, you know, as a game developers, I do think, and I think in SciPlay we believe that we play essential role in people's life and helping people to, you know, have their place of escape, of relax, of social interactions, which is super important in days like, you know, like we experience right now, the pandemic and social distancing. So I think we carry very, very important mission developing the games. So I think we need to be in our best shape at all times, so that when people need us the most, we are there to accommodate them and to provide the best experience and the best relaxation, I don't know, social interaction, everything we can, you know, offer.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's really interesting of how, the position that we play, as, either, game developers or even platforms that work with game developers, and just like how expanded our responsibilities have become through this pandemic, and how much of an influence or impact that we have in users, out there in the market who are interacting with our content or our games, right? And it's serving not only the purpose of entertainment, but it's also serving these purposes of relaxation and calmness and mindfulness, and really, again, this concept of escapism to make sure, again, that we're all mentally sound, that everything is going to be okay, and everything's going to be good. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And if you asked me this question, maybe even last year, or anything, I would never have even thought these were different dynamics that we would be serving out in market. So that's very interesting perspective, and thank you so much for sharing that. So as we enter, again, 2021, we're all anticipating some substantial changes to how device IDs are handled across certain environments. So that said, with the uncertainty regarding upcoming changes from Apple, coupled with internal challenges to adapt, how are you and your company thinking about the transition to a user identified-less ecosystem in 2021? Osku, I was hoping that you can help us kick off this discussion.
Of course. Well, I would say that the main nature of UA won't change. Like any other change in the market, this is just something we need to adapt with, since it's a market which is constantly changing nevertheless. And the craft itself in the perspective of UA changes all the time, and it's just some bump on the road we need to take care of with, let's say. But nevertheless, I would say that I won't say we are going, but at least we are trying and testing to go back on to more traditional marketing approach. So I'm talking about media mix modeling, where we use a wide range of different channels and agencies and let's say marketing agencies, which allows them to, on all these pieces, allows them to measure the impact of the overall performance. So it goes a little bit more granular, but at least we can then again see a little bit of how different aspects works and how they affect in the overall performance altogether. And then again, of course, we will have the users who will allow the IDFA tracking. So even though it won't be, well, I won't say it's not a huge amount, since we don't know yet, but probably it's not going to be a huge amount of users, but at least it's still on the table. So hopefully that works for anyone who's trying testing. I assume that we are gonna test it as well. And then again, we will have Android. So one logical step is to also running tests and new creatives and audiences on Android first, and then implement those learnings on iOS. But then again, of course, as I assume we all know that our audiences behave quite differently between the platforms. So it's not 100% same on different platforms. So, but it's at least a possibility to, and quite logical step to take. And also, well, this is probably quite small number of users, but there is still people who won't update their devices. So maybe we can still see some people on iOS side which are running iOS 13 and less, and maybe we can test whatever we can on that side as well.
No, that's great, and I think that we're all hopeful, right? Just as a in-app ecosystem or industry, that we do hope that there will be a higher than what we expect opt-in rate, which is one thing, and hopefully that this will be one of those things where similar to web environments, that a lot of people are continuing to choose content over these things and still want to ingest content and have the experience so they can opt in. So I'm hoping that it'll follow some of the same suit, because although there was a hit in those environments, there still was a good amount of opt-in within the audiences, which is nice. So hopefully we're thinking the worst and preparing for the worst, but it'll be better once it'll actually be a better situation once this all kind of kind of smooths out. So Mariya, would love again to hear your thoughts on this question as well, if your approach is different, similar, or have the same kind of thought process.
Yeah, so again, I assume that the problem is common, like it's the same for us and for Osku. So I agree with everything you said. This is a great approach. So if we're talking about being prepared to this kind of thing when we can lose some kind of data, I think the most important is to try to be as prepared as we can from technical and strategical points of view, and come up with, as Osku said, about old marketing methods. So we need to come up with all kinds of viable marketing strategies, whether they were useful pre IDFA era, if you remember still. We had it. So, and we can try to, take maybe these learnings from the past and transform them and to make all kinds of viable marketing strategies, which will rely on, of course, of deep analysis and current activities and their strengths and weaknesses. Another thing I think is important for each company is to figure out the dilemma of, on one hand, increased friction and risk losing users with this pop-up of consent, opt-in, and so on, or on the other hand, it's a risk of losing deterministic data. So I think each company and each business should decide for themselves and to do this kind of analysis to see what is better for you specifically. And then a small tip from us, make sure you have a logic for conversion value that makes sense. So, and work together with your MMP and BI and data analysis engineers to ensure that the new data set format works for your goals. That's, I think, the most important tip from us.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and I can't stress that even more. And you hit the nail on the head, Mariya, when you talk more about the data and really how that's going to inform how the strategies are going to be employed within this our user identify list ecosystem in the future. Really having investments and strong analytics, really understanding fully of what types of signals we're able to utilize and not. And then also taking in consideration of the deterministic data that we will or will not be able to have access to going forward. So, having this data-driven approach is smart, and it's something that I agree with wholeheartedly, that everyone should start to think about different ways of how they're utilizing and capitalizing on the data that they will start to receive in lieu of these identifiers. So I know that one thing is for sure, and you touched on this, Mariya, which is, collaboration will be key throughout this entire process, not only, internally, but externally with, partners and technology vendors and so on. I know from personally speaking from Chartboost's perspective, Chartboost is laser focused on how we can, drive better communication and collaboration with our customers and our technology partners, as we really try to navigate the best way that we can throughout these complex changes, right? So that said, Mariya, can you help us understand a little bit more about what meaningful collaboration with ecosystem partners looks like for SciPlay?
Yeah, I think I would say that iOS 14 or not iOS 14, I think in any case, in any situation, we have to maintain as seamless and good relationship as we can. So in my opinion, nothing really changes here. So we need to grow and nurture our partnership and collaboration and solve and work together on solving every problem that we encounter together, because together we're stronger, obviously. And again, as a company that works with a lot of partners, I would say that for the company, for the developer or advertiser, I would advise learning strong and weak sides in every partnership and brainstorm together on what are the possible solutions and strategies keeping in mind those weak and strong sides and leverage them to your advantage. So those are the thoughts, very much.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Osku, what does meaningful collaboration look like for you and Rovio?
Basically, well, that's a good point, that nothing shouldn't be changing. So we are in a fortunate situation that we are already having a long and trustworthy relationship across the industry, and we are having quite tight collaborations with our current partners and hopefully future partners as well. And basically that just means that we are just testing together, sharing learning, sharing data, sharing best practices, testing beta products which are not available for, let's say, which haven't been come out yet. Well, you know what beta means. Have aligned strategies for big changes as this one. So just sitting at the same table and discussing about possible solutions together and how we can turn every stone and find the best solution which works best for both parties.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I think having a trusted set of partners, when you think about it, that you work with is going to be really key on being able to be flexible, experimentation, beta programs like you guys have mentioned. All of these different things, I think, goes into the the whole bucket of collaboration and making sure that all companies are successful together. We all should realize that there are some dependencies with one another, right? As we kind of work through this, because this is a ecosystem issue, and this is something that we all have to tackle together. And as Mariya mentioned, we are all in this together, right? And that's kind of like been the big theme of the entire year for 2020 across all fronts. So I know I'm curious to hear a little bit. Jill, I know that we didn't anticipate you to provide some insight to this question as well from a collaboration standpoint, but I know we've done some meaningful collaboration between our two companies, over the course of, at least the second half of this year, more frequently, which is good. Did you want to share any, additional thoughts, just, off the top of your head?
Of course. So there's like internal and external collaboration. Like internal, of course, we work very closely with our product team and data team to figure out solution approach. And external, actually really highly recommend to work with a top partner together, because they work with so many developers. They will be able to provide like more insight information, or even help us to summarize some of the idea. And then like I think our top partner also stay closely with like Apple, Google, those large platform, so they could possibly get more information, or like we can all work together, figure out the most suitable solution for the game category, for the company strategy or solution, position, everything. So again, like I think internal, external, both, we need to stay closely to work on the collaboration.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that insight, Jill. And again, didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but it's a perfect answer, and I couldn't agree with you more. So okay, so moving on. So when we think about the anticipated changes with regards to access to data and insights, and some people had mentioned it here around attribution, how does a group think about data sharing, or how do you think that data sharing will play a role in effective user acquisition and engagement while considering all of the above? So Mariya, would you mind helping to kick off this discussion?
Yeah, sure. I thought about this question. I think I would give like a surprising answer, I would say, a little bit. So when I think about the whole thing, the whole situation with iOS 14 and the problems with data and partial data, potentially that we will have like only small pieces of data or none at all, I would say that this really reminds me of Google transition to USC campaigns from more traditional on mobile campaigns for search and display and YouTube campaigns. If maybe you remember a couple of years ago, what happened is a lot of control was taken from the advertisers. Instead, we got pretty much black box in many aspects of user profiles, who are they, where are we buying from, etc., etc., etc. It was all given to the optimizer. However, in my opinion, this wasn't necessarily bad thing. Rather, it just gave the advertiser different focus, which importance is really, really hard to be overestimated, which is creative, as you know, the biggest focus for Google right now on mobile. So my main thought would be is not to try to fight the change, but rather embrace it and try to focus on finding creative approaches, solutions on how to deliver best results possible in this situation. On one side, like it seems to be a bad thing. On the other side, if you try to embrace it and not fight it, you may find some creative solutions like we did with USC. So to summarize, on one side, we should be as prepared as possible on technical side, of course, to get any data that we may get. On the other side, not to rush in anything before you evaluate the possibilities. And the third thing is being creative rather than being, boisterous and fight everything. Try to be as creative as possible. So I don't know how you think about this comparison, but it really reminded me this transition to USC.
No, I mean, I think that's fantastic. Like it's a really good point when you think about that's just kind of in the theme of being open, right? It's we've historically, even as an industry, as advertising industry, we see these large entities that have these walled gardens and just kind of like these black box environments. And we've operated in a certain way for a very long time. So I think now even more than ever, I appreciate and welcome the same kind of mentality about looking at how we can look at embracing kind of new ways of working together, embracing new opportunities, and not necessarily shutting everything out. That doesn't mean that we should try everything, but I think that they should be considered, right? Within reason. And there's opportunity for us to either, reap some benefits from that or even get some learnings and determine whether or not what path is going to be beneficial for each company. So I'm glad that you really kind of talked about this theme of being open, theme of not shutting things out, but really kind of embracing opportunities and then evaluating, the value from there, which is great. Jill, I'd love to hear your perspective on this as well from a Zynga perspective.
So I just want to say privacy is very important. Zynga cares deeply about players' privacy. And when our player make a decision, we respect it very, very much. So at the same time, in order to meet players' expectation and bring the right games in front of them, we will have to take our current method with the update that industry has been provided so far, and then form a few new approach. Like earlier, Osku mentioned, the main idea of UA is the same. And it's just like everything Mariya also said. We will just let players know about our amazing games and pick up available signals and information. At the same time, we'll just follow up with Apple's update and then be flexible when any changes come. Collaboration is very important. So again, I just want to say that this again, highly recommend stay close with our top partner and work with them closely because they work with many developers and they will be able to summarize and provide guidance approach that could help us to adopt smoother.
Fantastic. No, I think that that's going to be critical for us to make sure that we continue to work together and adopt new practices or even develop new practices together, right? And start pushing that out in the industry. I'm a huge fan of always going out and trying to, again, either create, alignment or consortium with other folks to kind of just help move the industry forward continuously, right? And I think that with this openness and the way that this, especially specifically this group is thinking about things, we can make some meaningful change going forward. So speaking of going forward, when we think about 2021 and the outlook, let's think about possibilities, right? Let's think about focus areas, right? So we've all experienced challenges, obviously, with resources and trying to work on the right things to make the meaningful impact. I know that prioritization has been one of the biggest challenges with any technology company on what to work on, what is not. So going forward in 2021, can you talk a little bit about two key priorities for your team as we look at the new year? So Osku, can you help to start us off with this discussion?
Sure. So two things. Firstly, I'm going to take us back to iOS 14 and Mariya mix modeling. So basically doubling down the other advertising avenues away from, let's say, current trends. So for example, back to TV, podcasts, radio, and let's say influencers, for example. And basically the idea for me is that we should be more tapping into the power of mass markets, like especially when we have when what we have in Rovio is the Angry Birds IP, Angry Birds brand, and we are fortunate enough to have it, and it's one of the biggest on the mobile markets. So let's say focus on mass marketability and accessibility on that sense. And the second point, back to Rovio and back to Angry Birds, like we have several, I won't say similar, but under the same IP, we have several strong games. So we still would have IDFA, and we are able to track the users across our games. So let's say we found valuable user in one of our title, and we see based on data that he or she might be a valuable user for a similar type of game as well. So we can try to push her or him in the right direction. Those two would be my two picks. Yes.
That's awesome. And I think that there's some also similarities in terms of how we're thinking about it as a platform, and working really closely with developers to understand those key priorities from you. Again, large developers is going to be really important as we continue to develop the product here on the Chartboost side as well. Jill, curious to hear what your thoughts are. Again, you're also obviously in a technical role as well, so I'm really curious to hear what you guys are thinking.
So in general, there will be a lot of challenging just in general, right? However, good thing will still happen. I have the faith. So just look at how many user and the player streamers has generated so far in 2020, right? So from marketing side, the priority principle actually stay the same. We will keep promoting good games. And the second one is acquiring traffic. I mean, honestly, this is like the main principle, and then we will just keep doing the same thing. And then with the available traffic signal, we will analyze further and then see if there is a way that we can provide the good experience to our player. Without data, we really cannot do much. And then with available signal, I still think we will be able to follow our main principle, promoting games and acquire traffic. Thank you.
No, fantastic. Do you know, just a quick follow-up question on that, Jill, do you know if when you think about acquiring traffic, does that mean curating the sources of supply that you may be, or even partners that you may be working with? Is that a thing as well?
Of course. So overall, right, let's say even today we have no signal at all, right? We will still promote the game because player need to know, user need to know what's out there in the market. We'll still acquire impression, we'll still acquire user. And then like overall at the end, the large platform still give us some data back. For example, overall daily, monthly, what's your revenue, how players engagement looks like. From those, we can still do what we have been doing, right? Making good games. So I think it's always, as long as we always keep our principle here, like we want to make the best game, we want to show the best game to our player. And then I believe the industry will appreciate and player will appreciate as well. And with partners' help, I think we will just do better.
That's fantastic. That's great. No, that's really awesome to hear about how you guys are thinking about things, and knowing that your principles are going to always just kind of like remain the same, but with either calibrations or small pivots. I think that's the right way to think about things in terms of priorities. So as we start to look at again 2021, you know, I have a basic question for the entire set of panelists, which is, you know, if there was one prediction for 2021, what would that be and why? So Mariya, why don't you help set that stage for us?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I think what Jill said about the privacy, I totally agree. So I believe that privacy protection will actually increase even further. I don't think that this is the last step that we see with iOS 14. And so I would say that that may potentially lead to the change in automatic algorithms usage by the third parties, which rely on models with a lot of data signals on users' behavior. So this is my prediction.
Got it. Really quick, can you expand just a little bit, Mariya, when you say the changes of automatic algo changes from third parties? Can you expand on that just a bit more?
The main thing, what I'm saying is that if you have any algorithms that rely a lot of signals from on the user's behavior, meaning that all those pings we're sending on the users, you know, different events that is happening inside the game. Okay, so if you have the algorithm like third party, not Google, not Apple, which are publishers by themselves, or not the developer, so this will be a big question, like what will be, how they will operate. So I think there may be like decrease in those algorithms. So I think they will like decrease and maybe even extinct, you know. Didn't want to get to this one, but you got me.
I mean, well, let's hope not, because I'm hopeful that.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that, but I think it's an important note to call out, because you know, again, like if you think about let's just take for instance programmatic. Programmatic is very, very reliant on user-based kind of attributes and identifiers. And I think what the big challenge that a lot of the platforms, inclusive of Chartboost, is actually faced with is really looking at new ways of how we can start to attribute kind of user behavior to different data sets, right? So I think you hit on this earlier with making sure we have strong, you know, data sci teams, making sure that we analyze appropriately, making sure that we're taking advantage of all of these different signals, which the team is absolutely has invested in on our side, which is really fantastic. Again, I wish I had more information to kind of share publicly, but more to come on that front. But we're really excited about some changes that we're implementing on our side, because you're absolutely right. These algorithms that have been dependent on these things will, and if they don't do anything to, you know, innovate or even expand, well, I'm sorry, that's kind of like almost the end of the line there for you. So, you know, I'm adult enough to admit things like that, but you know, when we have the mentality of continuously evolving and thinking about things of how we can expand and not being so one noted, that's a way to be able to, you know, still stay relevant and still be a great partner for all of our again performance marketers here on this call. Jill, would love to hear your thoughts on one prediction for 2021.
Can I only have one? So I think the industry in general has many predictions, right? And then usually when there's a new technology, that technology could steer towards a certain direction, to be honest, right? It just hasn't happened yet because we are not in 2021 at the moment. Like in 2019, we definitely didn't expect COVID will happen in 2020 and like bring so much impact. So like if looking into like 2021, it's a lot of uncertainty, and like Mariya said, privacy will always play a very important role. While advertisers still have to still want to buy ads and show impression, there is possible that throughout this exercise, we could touch the category or group we haven't serviced much in the past. and then could inspire some like a new strategy or sparkle that we don't know, but I think that could happen.
Yeah. So prediction in short would be kind of like, it may uncover another cohort. It may uncover
exactly. It's possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love the optimism and making sure that we're thinking positively about those new things that we can start to think about, not necessarily a doom and gloom, right? So it's good.
We have to stay positive.
we all have to get in the positive mindset.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I didn't mean that at all, Mariya, at all. No, I think that you're speaking, everybody's speaking reality here. But again, I think the theme that we all talked about earlier, and you mentioned this, Mariya, as well, is like, we do have to think about, like, you know, the impact that we have, and we should think positively continuously about, you know, the year to come. All right, Osku, obviously last but not least, what is your thoughts on a single prediction for 2021?
I'm gonna bring us back to my previous answer. So I'm gonna say, which is quite obvious, that Android is gonna be playing a much bigger part on next year, for us at least. And I think, well, I assume all agree that iOS has been having more valuable user base. But now then, when the granularity on iOS is probably gone, then we need to be more focused on the other platform. So that's my basic answer.
Oh, that's great. No, I think that, you know, Android hasn't said anything about any changes. So let's continue to ride that wave and figure out how we can, you know, get those users and be able to still make a meaningful, if not larger, impact across that ecosystem, which is really, really good. And it's still going to remain, like, you know, we all know that Apple and Google have two different mentalities in terms of one being very ad driven, one being very kind of privacy centric. We know that the other will probably follow suit from a privacy centric standpoint, but nothing yet. So I'm crossing fingers that will still be delayed a little bit more, because we don't need another problem, or we don't need any more things to worry about. All right, and then this is a bonus question that I wanted to ask the team here, the panelists, a little fun thing. Don't worry, it'll be quick. I saw Osku's eyes just kind of light up here. So let's go down the list. I'll start with Jill, and then, if there was one word to describe 2020, what would that be? And then also the same for 2021, just one word, 2020 and then 2021. All right, Jill, go. Let's do a lightning round thing.
Only one word?
One word for 2020.
Can I use one phrase?
Okay, yeah.
Carry on.
Carry on, all right. And then 2021?
Be positive.
Great, awesome. All right, Mariya.
I'll be very creative. Explosion and aliens.
Nice. I love it. Explosion. I love it. All right. And then Osku.
Toilet paper and hope.
Toilet paper and hope. That's isn't that the weird, I just have to say, that's the weirdest thing, like toilet paper out of all things.
First thing on my mind.
Yeah, not even sanitizer was the first one. It was the toilet paper. It was that, and then it was sanitizer. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, fantastic. So since we just have a very small a bit of time, we have just a little bit of time left. I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss just maybe one or two of the pre-submitted questions that the attendees have submitted. And we ranked these by popularity. So we've gotten quite a few that have come in, but the first question here that was highly rated was, it's probably on everybody's mind. And it's, how do you think iOS 14 will affect your UA budget distribution across your UA channels? So maybe Osku, can you kick us off and maybe give your thoughts here?
Sure. Of course, I cannot say the exact amounts, but we keep spending on let's say tools that we see that are working for us, and we've had some pretty good history with DSPs and programmatic buyings, and we keep doing it as long as it brings the results we are looking for, and of course, if they keep working after the change, and definitely on Android side, we still keep using it, and I encourage everyone to use them as well, or not so, then we are in a better situation.
That's great. That's still a positive answer in my mind, so that's fantastic. All right, how about you? How about your thoughts, Mariya?
Yeah, so I can't really disclose a lot as we are a publicly traded company. I think this is supposed to be like very individual for each company, depending on the products, depending on how strong your products are on each platform. And again, as I spoke earlier, you just need to, you just need to analyze pros and cons on each decision potentially you can make, and decide for your own company, for your, even for your product, because the product can behave differently. What is the best decision in terms of budgets? And that would be my answer.
I think that's great, and I think that's a very methodical approach, which I respect and I appreciate. And then Jill, would you mind providing your input here on how iOS 14 will affect UA budget distribution?
So I think right now, if we look at the our top partner, the ad networks, I think all of them still has very decent inventory. And then 2021, like I think overall the whole year, the partner that we currently working with, they still has the capability and skill to help us to acquire user. Overall, that wouldn't shift too quick. So we will just keep doing what we are currently doing and keep the best practice. At the same time, we will look into other technology that can help us to keep player engaged with us. So we wouldn't, we can keep continue provide a good gameplay experience to our player.
Got it. No, that's really great insight, Jill. So maybe I can help summarize also and keep me honest, team. But it sounds like that we as large scale developers as you are, when we look at budget distribution, at least there's no anticipated things like drops immediately, like making these kind of huge kind of knee-jerk reactions. I think there's still a mandate to make sure that you continue to do what you do and acquire the users, get the value, and you're going to continue to invest where it makes sense, right? So and then also working with potentially exploring different technology partners that may help to bridge the gaps that we're going to face that may hopefully come, that's going to come up in 2021. But again, no big decisions or big swings that's going to happen as of yet, which I think a lot of people are nervous about, whether folks are going to completely pull back or completely change strategies. But I think, the biggest thing, one of the big things that I took away from at least this conversation is that there's still mandates. You still got to do what you continue to do from a user acquisition standpoint, and you're going to figure out ways to still how to achieve that goal, right? Which is good. All right, and I think that we'll do one more quick question and then we'll wrap up. So the second question, most popular question, was really around SK Ad Network. So how do you plan to overcome the severe measurement limitation of SK Ad Network? So Jill, why don't do you have some quick thoughts here?
I mean, overall, like Apple has, they have been giving us a lot of information. And then even they won't send out email, tell everybody it's like, hey, I update the site. But if you follow their website, you will find like changes like once a while, right? And then I really think we as developer and Apple, they provide a platform. We are like helping each other. And then I don't think they will want to make it so developer wouldn't be success, right? So they will support us. I really believe that. And then Google, same thing, right? So with SKAd, right now as a new app submit to App Store with the update, signal generated, data generated, and then we value every player's feedback and their behavior in game. We also look at the total everything, and then to help us prioritize the direction. So I think from that perspective, we still have a general idea toward to how and where we should go forward. Mm-hmm. And then we'll, perhaps there will be 3.0, 4.0 with the SKAd network post back.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And it's weird, I think that we're all kind of like, waiting with our hands kind of just ready and open from the Apple team and figuring out like, come on, release some things. Come on, let's do something. So I think we all kind of share that eagerness. Mariya, would you like to add in some of your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just, it's a little bit hard to answer this question because, you know, no one exactly knows whether the initial documentation that Apple released will be it, or there may be some modifications. Like everything we talked about here is pretty much a speculation on what we're going to be.
Right.
So it's really hard to say, like, the initial documentation looks limited, but then again, each and every one of us has, I believe, has a strong analytical and technical teams to think what will be the best, how, what is the best way to leverage the SKD network so it will fit and serve our goals. So I guess that will be my answer.
No, I think that makes sense. Like we got to just kind of like do whatever we can and make sure that we're taking our best foot forward, and you know, using data first to help us to kind of inform the decisions going forward.
Yeah, you know, even with the limited information, you can concentrate on the most important things to you.
Yeah.
Like we just regular to get it all, but then again, they're pretty much several essential things that we need. Not everything is super essential.
Yeah. No, I see. I really appreciate your outlook and your just thought process, Mariya. Like just the openness, right? You're thinking about things on the bright side. Like, hey, you know, of the things that we're getting, yes, it's limited, but now let's focus on the most important things and try to extract the most value from that, right? Coupled with your own internal methodologies and internal processes and so on. So, and I think Jill said a little bit of that as well too, which is really great to hear. All right, Osku, take us home. What are your thoughts on this SKAD network piece and the limitations of it?
Honestly, I don't have too much insights besides on what have been already been said, and what I have seen on my daily work is that every network has their own suggestions and approaches, and they differ by weekly. So it's really hard to say.
Got it. No, I think that makes sense because everybody has their secret sauce. Everybody just has, you know, kind of maybe their value within the chain that it could be
true.
Very, yep, which is
Yeah,
good.
and yeah, sorry, just this isn't this isn't the right forum to go too deeply in. It's one of those. So.
Got it. Perfect. All right. Okay. So before we wrap up, you know, I think that's the last question. But before I wrap up, you know, I do want to take this opportunity to thank all our amazing panelists for participating in our virtual discussion. So thank you, Jill, Osku, and Mariya. It's been great to, again, have this discussion and tap into your individual expertise and gain some advice and insight through our discussions. So thank you guys so much for you know, taking the time and being here. Lastly, huge thank you to all of our attendees. Again, if you have any questions, feedback, additional topics that you're interested in learning about from Chartboost or our partners, feel free to send those suggestions to marketing@chartboost.com. But with that, I will give everybody 4 minutes back, which is a ton in today's day. So thank you guys so much. Have a great morning, evening, and day. And hopefully we'll see you all soon. So thanks everybody for the time. We appreciate it. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.